The palace thought they had buried the true king forever, leaving him to rot as a mindless monster in the dark, while his wicked brother wore his crown. They thought no one would ever survive long enough to hear his screams. But they didn't account for Anya. They didn't expect a common maid to step into the chamber of death, touch the beast, and awaken a bond that would shatter the entire kingdom. Chapter 1. The heavy iron doors of the obsidian tower didn't just lock, they sealed a fate. Anya wiped the sweat from her brow, her simple maid's tunic stained with ash. For 3 years, she had served in the high palace of Vane, a kingdom ruled by the tyrannical regent Malachor. Malachor was a ruler feared by all, but Anya knew a darker secret. Deep beneath the palace, in a chamber lined with silver runes, Malachor kept a monster, a creature of pure shadow and jagged bone, known only as the Night Stalker. The kingdom was told the beast was an ancient demon trapped by Malachor to protect the realm. But tonight, as Anya brought the heavy tray of raw meat to the dungeon, she heard the beast scream. It wasn't a roar of anger. It was a sound of pure, human agony. Risking her life, Anya stepped closer to the bars. The shadow beast lunged, its glowing violet eyes fixing onto hers. Anya dropped her tray, but she didn't run. Instinctively, she reached her bare hand through the freezing bars and touched the creature's matted, shadow-furred forehead. The world exploded in her mind. A wave of memories that didn't belong to her flooded her consciousness. A golden throne, a treacherous glass of wine, and Malachor's smiling face as he forced a curse down his own brother's throat. The beast wasn't a demon. The beast was King Corin, the rightful, beloved ruler everyone believed had died of an illness 3 years ago. Malachor hadn't just stolen the throne. He had turned his brother into a monster and locked him away to be starved and tortured. Before Anya could process the horror, heavy footsteps echoed down the stone corridor. She scrambled backward just as Regent Malachor stepped into the torchlight, flanked by his elite guards. A common maid, tampering with the kingdom's greatest threat? Malachor sneered, his silver armor gleaming. He looked at the beast, which had suddenly gone completely calm, its violet eyes watching Anya protectively. Malachor's eyes narrowed with sudden, venomous suspicion. The beast had never been calm. It had ripped generals and executioners to shreds. "How did you survive a night in its presence?" Malachor demanded, stepping so close, Anya could smell the wine on his breath, the same wine from the memory. "It spared me, Your Grace," Anya whispered, keeping her head low, her heart hammering against her ribs. She couldn't let him know she saw the truth. Malachor smiled, a cruel, sharp expression. "Fascinating. A peasant girl achieves what my strongest knights could not." He turned to the crowded hallway of nobles, who had followed him down. The prophecy of Vane states that only the true champion of the light can tame the shadow. Tomorrow, Anya the orphan will enter the trials of the Sunday. If she passes, she will be named the Grand Protector. If she fails, the beast will tear her apart. As Malachor walked away, laughing, a deep, resonant voice echoed clearly inside Anya's mind. "Do not take the trials. He wants you dead. Run." Anya looked back at the shadow beast. "I am not running," she thought back, realizing the mental bond was wide open. "I am going to win your crown back." The morning of the first trial arrived with blinding, hot sunlight and a courtyard packed with bloodthirsty nobles. Anya stood in the center of the white marble arena, her hands trembling as the guards handed her a rusted iron sword. On the royal dais, Malachor sat wrapped in silk, sipping wine, waiting for her to be destroyed. Opposite her, the iron gate ground open, and out stepped the guardian of the flame, a massive, armored warrior wielding a sword enveloped in pure fire. "Yield or perish, peasant," the warrior bellowed. Panic seized Anya's chest. She had never held a weapon in her life. The warrior lunged, his flaming blade swinging down with enough force to split the marble. Duck to the left, a voice commanded inside her head. It was deep, gravelly, and instantly calming. "Corin." Anya threw herself to the left, the heat of the flames singing the edge of her hair. "He is heavy on his right side." Corin's voice guided her mind, steadying her frantic breathing. "Wait for him to swing again. then strike the unarmored joint behind his knee. The warrior whirled around, roaring, bringing his heavy blade down in a wild arc. Anya closed her eyes, trusted the voice in her head completely, and drove her rusted blade straight into the gap in the warrior's armor. The fire on his blade vanished as he collapsed to the stone floor, grasping his knee in agony. The courtyard erupted into stunned silence. Malachor gripped the arms of his throne, his face turning an ugly shade of white. Anya stood panting, looking up at the regent, while her mind thrummed with a warm, proud pulse from the deep dungeons below. "You did beautifully," Corin whispered. That evening, instead of being sent to the servants' quarters, Anya was escorted to a lavish bedroom fitting for a competitor. Silk sheets covered the bed, and a tray of fine food sat on the table, but she couldn't rest. Using the hidden servant passages she had cleaned for years, Anya slipped through the shadows back down to the silver-lined dungeon. The shadow beast shifted as she approached the bars, its massive form trembling. "Corin," she whispered aloud. "You shouldn't have come," his voice echoed softly in her mind. "If Malachor finds you here, he won't wait for the trials to end. He will execute you himself." "I don't care," Anya said, stepping right up to the iron bars, completely unafraid of the claws or the jagged teeth. "He took everything from you. He turned you into this, and he makes the kingdom worship him for it. How do we break the curse?" The beast lowered its great head against the cold iron, its violet eyes swimming with grief. "The curse was forged from a dark amulet Malachor wears around his neck at all times. It feeds on my blood. To break it, the amulet must be shattered by someone who knows the truth. But Anya, the final trial requires you to execute the beast to prove your loyalty to the throne. He is setting a trap for you." Anya reached through the bars, her fingers burying into the dark shadow fur, feeling the steady, powerful heartbeat of the trapped king. "Then we will turn his trap against him." 2 weeks passed, and Anya survived 2 more deadly trials, guided entirely by the strategic mind of the king locked in her head. She had become a symbol of hope for the common people, which only made Malachor more desperate to destroy her. Finally, the day of the execution arrived. The courtyard was packed tighter than it had ever been. In the center stood a massive iron cage, and inside it was Corin, bound by heavy, glowing chains that drained his strength. Malachor stood before the crowd, holding a brilliant silver daggers. "Anya the orphan has proven her strength," he shouted. "Now, she must prove her allegiance. Strike down the demon that threatens our peace and take your place as Grand Protector." The crowd cheered, but Anya walked up the steps to the cage mechanically. She took the silver dagger from Malachor's hands, her eyes locked onto the regent's neck, where the dark, pulsing amulet hid beneath his collar. "Are you ready?" Corin asked in her mind, his voice tight with anticipation. "Ready," Anya thought back. She turned toward the cage, raising the dagger as if to strike the beast. Malachor leaned forward, a triumphant, wicked smirk on his face. But at the last second, Anya whirled around. Instead of striking the beast, she lunged straight at Malachor, driving the silver dagger directly into the dark amulet on his chest. The amulet shattered with a sound like thunder. Black mist exploded from the shards, throwing Malachor backward onto the stone floor. He screamed as the dark magic he had used for years turned inward, consuming him in a flash of blinding light. At the exact same moment, a violent transformation shook the iron cage. The shadow-furred beast threw back its head, roaring in pure agony as its jagged bones began to crack, shift, and shrink. The dark fur dissolved into the air, revealing smooth skin, strong shoulders, and a sharp, regal jawline. When the dust settled, a man knelt on the floor of the cage, pulling a tattered cloak around himself. His eyes were no longer violet. They were a warm, striking hazel. The oldest nobles in the front row gasped, dropping to their knees instantly. "King Corin," someone whispered. Within seconds, the entire courtyard was on their knees, bowing to the rightful ruler who had finally returned from the dead. Corin stood up, his movements elegant and powerful despite his years of captivity. He ignored the bowing crowd, stepped out of the broken cage, and walked straight toward Anya. He stopped just inches from her, his breath warm against her face. Slowly, carefully, he raised a hand, and cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing away a stray tear. I spent 3 years drowning in endless darkness. Corin murmured aloud, his real voice deep, rich, and beautifully human. And then there you were, my light in the night. Anya smiled, leaning into his touch, the golden bond between their minds humming with pure, unbroken peace. The wicked regent was gone, the trials were over, and the Shadow King was finally home. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If your heart raced for Anya and King Corin, please hit that like button and subscribe to Shadow Heart Stories so you never miss our next adventure. See you in the next story.